So the NFL Top 100 concluded recently, and there was a lot of controversy over the ranking of the quarterbacks because Lamar Jackson was number 2 overall, with Mahomes being 4th overall, which means that Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback according to the NFL players who voted on this list. With Tyreek Hill, congratulations to him. He becomes the first wide receiver to be the number 1 spot. Christian McCaffrey fills in that number 3 spot as well. So he goes Tyreek Hill, Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, and Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot of controversy over Mahomes being ranked over Lamar Jackson, but I would like to know, do you agree or disagree with the NFL players who voted on this, that Lamar Jackson in 2023 was a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes?
First, I would say I have some issue with Lamar and Mahomes not being 1 and 2. I think that happens because the players are voting for this, and there's only 32, I don't know how many quarterbacks they let. I guess every quarterback on every team can vote.
I'm sure,
So it's a minority of players that are quarterbacks that are, and compared to all the NFL that are voting on this. And I'm not sure how many players actually vote. I think it's a fraction of the total number of players who play in the league. So it's a little sketchy, I think, about the top 100 and how they put it together. It's very interesting. But personally, I think Lamar and Mahomes are 1 and 2. And I think that it depends on how you view it, whether you're looking at their performance in 2023, that's how you're evaluating where they fall in the top 100, or are you evaluating their career? Which do you think it is? It's
evaluating what happened last year.
If you evaluate it based on what happened last year, then
because it's the best players. It's the top 100
on
of 2023.
on a stats basis, Lamar is ahead of Mahomes, but on a success basis, Mahomes is ahead of him because he won the Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl, and he's won 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. The guys they have a dynasty. They're going for a 3-peat this year. His career stats blow Lamar Jackson away in the passing. If you add Lamar's running, then it's a little bit closer. He's played 1 more year in the league than Lamar has. He's averaged over 4,000 yards a year passing. He has 219 TDs to 63 interceptions. He has a 103.5 quarterback rating. To Lamar, who's played 6 years, his 66.5% completion percentage, too. To Lamar's 64.5, 2,600 yards per year. 125 TDs to 45 interceptions. The difference is Lamar Jackson's an elite runner. He runs for 5,200, almost 5,300 yards so far in 6 years. That's almost 900 yards a year for 6 yards per carry average and 29 TDs. So he's playing in a different league there in terms of the number of skills that he brings. He's the most athletic quarterback that we've seen in ages, and more athletic than Mahomes because he can make something. I think he makes more out of a broken play than Mahomes does, just because of his athleticism and his ability to run the ball. Mahomes, 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowls, 5 AFC championships. No active quarterback besides Jackson has won in the past 17 years MVP. So I think that Jackson has 2 MVPs. He got his last one this past year. He's I think both of them. You look at them; they're really gifted artists.
100%.
Yeah, they have the two most creative quarterbacks out there, and maybe the 2 most creative players ever to play the game, both entering the peak of their abilities right now. They can create from both within and outside the offense, a structure that they have. So I think it's a toss-up. I personally put Mahomes, I guess if you look at it on 23 versus on stats, you could put Lamar ahead of Mahomes, but Mahomes beat him in the playoff game on the road.
That's true.
And Lamar made a big mistake at the end of the game throwing that interception, and Mahomes won the Super Bowl. So I'm sorry. I think I rank Mahomes ahead of Lamar. I rank Lamar number 2 in that standing, and I rank Mahomes number 1. This thing with Tyreek Hill being number 1 and McCaffrey number 3, I don't buy that.
You don't buy that.
No, I don't, because the quarterback, as I've always said, the most important player on the field, handles the ball on every play.
There it is.
I think you got to look at those guys in a different light in terms of their value to their team and to their ability to win. You don't generally see a team that has a second-tier quarterback competing for the Super Bowl.
I completely agree, because, I mean, I can make this debate where the last real Tier 2 team that we saw compete and win a Super Bowl was the 2011 New York Giants, because they had to go through the wild card and go through there to beat the New England Patriots. Not many Tier 2 teams make and win a Super Bowl. Sometimes it's luck. Most of the time it's luck. And sometimes it's just really unfortunate situations. Because I think that there is a high chance that if some things fall into place, like, for instance, a double doink, New England wins the 2017 Super Bowl instead of the Philadelphia Eagles. It had to be a double doink for the Eagles to move on.
How about if Amari Samuels had intercepted Asante Samuels had intercepted Eli Manning's pass and went right through his hands?
Correct.
The Patriots would have won that Super Bowl too.
Correct. When it comes to the top 100, I am going to go year-to-year basis, because it is the top 100 players of 20. Or I guess it's 2024, not 2023. But it's generally of the past year. So let's go 2023. There is no doubt in my mind that Lamar Jackson was a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes last year, because Mahomes had his worst year of his career. Now, he set the bar very high, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns first year starting. It was a virtuoso. Now, it actually ended with Brady beating him in the AFC Championship game, but last year, it was Lamar hands down. Now, Brock Purdy, honestly, I think he was 28th on this list. He should be a little bit higher. If we talk about wins in the, I do think in a large part, in a large sense, and there's a topic later on throughout the year, which I'm teasing right now. I think quarterback wins is a gray area. It definitely does not matter. It definitely, I guess, it matters in my mind. It matters to a certain extent. But you can't say that quarterback wins is just not a stat. It doesn't matter at all. Because like you said, quarterback hands the ball on every play. If you have a bad quarterback, the likelihood of you losing is incredibly high. You could have a great defense and still lose a bunch of games because your quarterback is very bad. So,
who makes a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And you lose the game. Dak Prescott would be a good example of that.
Perfect example of that. He played 12 games, led the league in interceptions, and you are one round, and bye-bye, you're gone. And your defense actually did its job. And in that game, he threw 2 picks, and they just couldn't recover from that. The defense did its job against San Francisco. You can complain about the Packers game all you want for this past year. But against San Francisco and Brock Purdy last year, the defense did its job and held the Niners to 19 points. They did its job. Dak Prescott didn't. But when it comes to this year, I have no doubt in my mind Lamar is a better quarterback. And just look at the numbers. The numbers say that Lamar, hands down, was a better quarterback, had a better record, had the same exact completion percentage, had more total yards, had more total touchdowns to interceptions. And by the way, I was shocked to hear that Patrick Mahomes had 0 rushing touchdowns this past year. It's a little bit surprised at that number. Even had fewer turnovers, had half the interceptions, had more yards per attempt, had a significantly higher passer rating. So, well, yes, it's controversial to say that the Super Bowl winner is not the best player in the NFL. We have to realize that sometimes the best quarterback just doesn't win at all. We saw that several times throughout the history of the NFL.
Well,
the best quarterback sometimes doesn't win
sometimes the stats don't tell the whole story.
I mean,
Mahomes won the Super Bowl.
No, that's perfectly fine. But can we fully agree that, and we talked about it on last show, can we perfectly agree that Todd Monken drew up a horrible game against the Kansas City Chiefs in the championship game? You ran it 6 times.
I agree with that, but you also have to look at Mahomes came back twice in the fourth and overtime period to come from behind to win the Super Bowl.
Yes, 100%. 100%. But there were also plays to be had for the 49ers that did not get made.
Mahomes made it to the Super Bowl playing on the road every game but the first one.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, fine. We talk about that. Let's acknowledge this. The Ravens set a record this time. They had 9 14-plus point victories over winning teams. That's an NFL record. They dominated good teams.
Yeah.
And in the biggest game of the year, MVP candidate versus MVP candidate, Lamar Jackson beat the crap out of a San Francisco defense that was supposed to be top of the league. Embarrassed them, and then the defense just added whipped cream on top of that beautiful bowl of ice cream by picking off Brock Purdy and eventually having him benched. Like, that's how bad that game got.
It was a regular season game.
Correct.
If Lamar Jackson had beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game and had won the Super Bowl, I would say that he's better in this ranking than Mahomes, but he didn't.
Correct.
And Mahomes, to me, the wins mean more than the stats. And
That's
the wins in the
fine.
playoffs, it's the second season. The guy who wins the Super Bowl, who's won 3 out of the past 4, in my book, is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Well, yeah, you could say...
And the number 1 player in the NFL.
If you're talking about Mahomes' career, I'm not going to disagree with you. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL
and I would also
for so
say
long.
the guy who wore this jersey
Guy behind
never
you.
lost to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
That's true.
Very important.
He's 2-0.
He's the GOAT.
Correct.
He's the GOAT. Tom Brady.
Right.
The GOAT.
And that's what ESPN also said, ranking him the number 1 player in the 2000s, number 1 athlete in the 2000s, or number 1 NFL player, I should say, in the 2000s. But yeah, we're talking about 2023. We're not talking about what happened last year or the 2 years ago or in 2019. We're not talking about the 2018 season of 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, AFC Championship appearance. No, we're talking about 2023. Lamar was 1 vote away from being a 2-time unanimous MVP. Someone thought Josh Allen deserved the other vote. So he had 49 out of the 50 eligible votes. We saw a guy go up against one of the best defenses and beat the crap out of him on Christmas Day, I'm pretty sure. We also saw him go up against the Kansas City Chiefs and be a primary passer, which he isn't good at doing. That's not his strength. If I'm game planning and I look at the Chiefs and say, they have a below average run defense. What have we been the past 5 years? Oh, the best running team in the NFL. And then for some reason in my mind I say, you know what? Let's pass against the second best pass defense in the NFL. Why not? That's just stupid. That's dumb. The game plan was backwards. Your weakness was going against their strength when you literally had it backwards. You were the best running team and have been the best rushing team in the NFL since Lamar got there, large part because of Lamar and his athleticism. And the Chiefs this year did not have a great run defense. Hell, I think the first play that Gus Edwards had, he had 11 yards on the first running play. And you decide to keep the ball, hold it, pass it. Yes, and he did throw into triple coverage. And yes, Zay Flowers did have a rookie mistake where he, tried to reach for the end zone and Snead knocked the ball out. Tremendous plays on the Chiefs side, no doubt about it. But you look at that game and sometimes you're like, Lamar, go! And he's just standing there waiting for someone to get open. OBJ was nowhere to be found in the playoffs. Nowhere to be found.
They hopefully learned a lot from that game because
you pray that they do.
They kind of beat themselves in that game.
I fully blame Todd Monken. That for me was not a Chiefs victory because this Chiefs team that went against the Buffalo Bills. And by the way, after this, don't look at the regular season numbers. Look at the prior game. The Bills did a great job running against this Chiefs defense. So it's not like, technically how about the regular season they were 18th? But what about in the playoffs? In the playoffs, they were not that great either. The Bills, like I said, ran a muck over them. All you had to do was stick to what you're good at. Lamar, run the football. Gus Edwards, hand the ball to him. Like, you have these types of players who are really good at doing something, and you went against it. And the perfect example of that is, and I'm going to bring this up again, I think it was a Monday night game. I think it was actually the day before Tom Brady got divorced, where it was, that's a large part of how I remember this game. Because it was a horrible sequence. You lose Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden you get divorced. Lamar and the Ravens decided to game plan. And by the way, this was Greg Roman's offense. So it was very run-heavy. Todd Monken's a pass guy. They decided to pass the ball, primarily in the first half. They were losing to a Bucs team with an injured offensive line and Brady being scared out of his mind when an ounce of pressure got near him. They were losing in the first half. They throw it 8 times in the second half. They take care of the Buccaneers. That shows you what your strength and weakness is. Run the damn ball. That's what you're good at. That's what they should have done. That's what Todd Monken failed to do in the AFC Championship game. Because I have no doubt, you play to your strength, we see a different Super Bowl outcome. We see a different representation of the AFC in the form of Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. There is no doubt in my mind. Because just like everyone's been talking about. When the Chiefs were looking horrible, it turns out, yeah. Let me bring the number real quick. Because Patrick Mahomes, he's 4,100, let's round it up, 4,200 yards and 27 touchdowns were near career lows. We're talking about, think about, and by the way, those numbers, 4,200 yards, those are not bad numbers. But it's Patrick Mahomes' bar that makes it very low.
The Chiefs overall didn't play that well last year. They had a streak where they lost a bunch of games. They were talking about them not making the playoffs.
Correct.
And then they corrected things and they got it going. And then when they got into the playoffs, even though they had to do most of it on the road, they came through. They had the heart of a champion, and they won the Super Bowl. And so, to me, the stats are important, and they do tell a lot of the story, but they don't tell the whole story. The whole story is the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
And that is true. That is 100% true. The Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with him being a top player in the NFL. No doubt about it. But to say who is the better quarterback, well, better record, set an NFL record in dominant victories.
The better quarterback also has the better
so in that
decision making.
So in that argument,
and the key moment when everything was on the line, unfortunately, and I feel bad for him because I like Lamar Jackson a lot. He made a critical mistake.
He did 100%.
You didn't see Mahomes make those kinds of mistakes in the playoffs. He didn't do it. If he had, they would have lost the game, and they didn't. They won.
Well, I'll throw this at it to wrap it up.
The games were close.
No,
the Bills game was very close.
Yes.
The Bills game was very close.
It was a missed field goal away from going to overtime.
Right. That's right. And the Ravens game was very close as well.
Yep.
It was the Ravens
7-point
beat
game.
themselves.
I agree, and that's what I'm saying. Mahomes doesn't have an OC or a head coach that screws up the game plan. They don't put Mahomes in a situation where your primary offensive scheme is what you're bad at. That's the difference. Mahomes plays to his strengths. The Chiefs play to their strengths, large in part because Andy Reid right now is the best head coach in the NFL. John Harbaugh, by the way, has not won that much in the playoffs since his last Super Bowl win. He hasn't. He's the Aaron Rodgers of head coaches.
The Ravens let their egos get to them a little bit more. They said we had a quarterback that threw for 4,500 yards this past year.
That could have been what it been.
And we're going to win this game through the air, and that was a mistake.
That could have been what it been.
And you know what? The Chiefs are probably playing for that. They probably anticipated that's what they were going to do. That's when the Ravens should have adjusted and gone to the run more. As you said, they only ran it 8 times in the second half.
Oh no, that was 8 times against the Bucs. They ran it, I think, 6 total times in this game.
6 total times.
I think it was
in the
6
whole
total
game?
times in the whole game. I'm pretty sure.
And that was a mistake.
100% a mistake. And I think that could be what it is. It's that you saw Lamar grow as a passer, so you thought, you know what? Let's make him grow even more. Let's accelerate. Let's inject it with steroids. Let's just say, you know what?
Bad time to do it.
Throw him
in the most important game of the year.
Exactly. I 100% agree. Play to your strengths, even if it's different than what you've been doing. Hell, that's what the Chiefs done.
Yeah, switching up would have been a good idea. They weren't expecting it.
Travis Kelce looked old during the regular season. Mahomes is playing horrible. In the playoffs, Mahomes looks great. Kelce's amazing. The offensive line steps up. The running game's back. The defense is out of its mind. That was really the only consistent thing all season was the defense being tremendous. But still, everything clicked in the playoffs. Lamar and this team decide, you know what? Let's keep up with the same thing. You know what? Let's even increase the stakes a little bit. Let's make him throw it even more. Turned out not to be a good strategy.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.